My. What do we have here? Canada getting a historic 0-0 draw against the second ranked team in the world, France. What a performance. And obviously, from the get-go, it's a weird one for me. I don't think I've ever felt like this, where you're going into a game in which you're not really supporting any team, but you also kind of are supporting both teams. It was a weird one. I decided in the game that I would go and, as a proper neutral, or try to be as fair as possible. First half wore the French kit, supported France somewhat. Second half done on the Canadian kit. We'll go from there, and I'll do likewise for this video. I'll start off with looking at the game from the Canadian side, and then I'll go and look at it and analyze things from the French perspective. Starting off with my beloved Canada, the country I have spent the most time in. What a performance. What a performance, simply said. Obviously, people are going to say, yeah, but it's a friendly, and of course it's true. But I have to say, for me at least, in the time that I've been watching Canadian football, this has to be, for me, it goes top 3 in terms of the most significant results you've gotten. It goes up there right along with, I'd say, the 2-0 against the US for qualifiers for me. And as well, of course, the qualification against Jamaica to qualify for the 2022 World Cup. But this one, right amongst it. Of course, yes, it was a friendly, and France are preparing for the Euros, but it was a maybe not full strength French squad, but all the big players at some point did feature. Mbappe obviously didn't start, but came on eventually. The only people you can go and say is maybe 𝙀𝙊𝘾𝘼𝙎𝙾, Rabiot that were injured, but bar from that, you had Maignan in goal. That's your starter. The back line, arguably the one that's going to start. You had Théo Hernandez on the left. Your center back pairing, which is still, I guess, the toss up in Upamecano and in Saliba to start, and on the right, Jules Koundé. In midfield, Kanté, Camavinga, Griezmann, and then up front you have Thuram, Dembele, and Giroud. So not a B team by any means, and Canada fielding the exact same team as they did in the Netherlands game, which obviously went initially in the first half, played really well, and in the second half less so. But in this game, Canada's able to go and stick it through. And not just that, it's not just like Canada went and sort of smash and grab the result out there. No, Canada played well, and it goes to, which I'll go and look at it more from the French perspective afterwards. Just looking at some of what the French media were saying, or not everybody, but some aspects. Some people were giving Canada's due praise, but some of them were going and saying sort of low-key disrespecting Canada to a certain degree. Like, obviously, yes, Canada, we can't pretend that Canada's like some top tier, footballing nation, but like, you guys, a bit of respect here. Like, this is, we're not some like no name country either. And Canada played well. Possession was even throughout the game. Obviously, I wouldn't go and say that Canada deserved to win by any means. No, France definitely created the bigger chances, and Canada, bar one or two, I'd say, one decent chance. Didn't have any like clear cut opportunities. Didn't have any big chances. Was France missed 3. So going and saying that they deserve to win, no. I think a draw is probably fair given the game. But again, like, huge performance, especially what a way to bounce back after the, we'll say, iffy sort of game of 2 halves. That was the last game. Truly, the first half being impeccable, and then the second half, we sort of, the wheels came off the wagon a bit. Whereas this time around, they were able to keep it consistent, battle through, keep the intensity throughout the game, and created some good opportunities and played well. And so for the second game for Jessie Marsh, under the Jessie Marsh era of the Canadian men's national team, it was great. As I said earlier, they put the exact same 11 as the game against the Netherlands. And it performed. You know what they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I thought even in the Netherlands game that the center back pairing of Bombito and Cornelius worked pretty well, and it worked again today. Obviously, Canada naturally playing against the French. You're going to concede opportunities, but even in the opportunities you did, it wasn't some like ridiculous like drubbing either. It's not like France had, 25 plus shots on target and et cetera, et cetera. As in, they created chances and they probably should have scored one or two of them, but it wasn't like some one-sided affair where Canada was never in it. As I said earlier, possession was dead even. Canada had more of the possession, in fact, in the first half, which shocked me when I figured that out. And then in the second half, France took it, but even in then, it wasn't like some 70-30. It was, I think, 55-45 and 58-42, respectively. So pretty even game. Overall, it's great for the program overall. Great for Jessie Marsh. Obviously, would have been pretty delighted with the performance in the first half against the Netherlands, and now to come up with this, I think it shows you a lot of positives for the 𝙀𝙀𝘿𝘾𝘼𝙎, and I think like obviously they've been saying it internally, and I think even I would probably also say that this is not the 𝙀𝙀𝘿𝘾𝘼𝑎 is not the tournament you want like that you're expected to do good in. It's everything's preparing sort of for 2026. But still, like, it's also don't go into 2024, this 𝙀𝙀𝘿𝘾𝘼𝑎, and just throw it away, sort of. But, like, it's still an opportunity. And I think, low-key, with this performance, if Canada can put this performance as they did against the French, against Argentina, and in their group games, I could see Canada getting through. Most likely, I'm not saying that they're going to go win the group or anything, but there's a possibility in there. And so, no, it's just really great positives. And, dang, I'm really proud of the program this far. And as I said, obviously, earlier, I was I would have said if Canada conceded less than 3 goals against what I would say is obviously, even according to FIFA, one of, if not the best team in the world, certainly probably the most talented team in the world. I mean, that's already I'd say pretty big win, especially given the fact that you got thumped 4-0 against the Netherlands. But to come here, get a 0-0 draw away from home after getting like thrashed in the second half against the Netherlands, I think is as good as a win, honestly. Like I think that's how you have to take it. Especially as the French, when they come out, which I'll get onto when I go and look at things through the French perspective, they sort of see it as like almost being akin to a loss. Obviously not, because you drew in the end. But yeah, just huge positives. Fonzie playing at left back, I think, especially when we're going to go and face like an Argentina, that's where he needs to play. The especially the pacing behind, and also not only that, but I like the way that he was able to convert, and also when going forward still could be a danger going up front. I thought that Liam Miller was stellar, obviously hitting the bar with his shot, probably Canada's arguably best opportunity. The one thing I will say was a bit lacking from the Canadian perspective was the strikers. I thought Jonathan David was okay, but 𝙀𝙀𝘾𝘼𝘆, unfortunately, even in the first game, obviously missing that pretty big opportunity in the first half. It's just, I don't know. I don't think he's done enough. I don't think he should be starting, at least for the near future for Canada. But Jonathan David, I'd still like keep him there for his hold up play, so on and so forth. But that's the thing, is that 𝙀𝙀𝘾𝘼𝘆 doesn't really necessarily bring you all that much in the hold up, so on and so forth. And if he's not doing that and then not finishing and converting his chances on the other end of the pitch, you sort of ask like, okay, well, is there not somebody, a man out there who can do better, so to speak? So that would be my one sort of downside. But even then, it's like, also, what do you expect him to do against the French? And granted, also like he didn't get many opportunities. I thought that the French also defended very, very well. Say the French as though this is the opponent, but obviously I'll get onto them afterwards. And then for me, what I'd say is the best player and the most impressive aspect was the midfield, bro. Oh my, like, especially 𝙋𝙊𝘾𝘼𝘆, masterclass, absolute, like, maybe not 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, very, very good. Very, very press resistant. Won a couple balls. Estacio as well was brilliant. Obviously him with the captain's armband. And as well, big saves from Maxime Crépeau. I think with that, I think Dean Sinclair had done well in the Netherlands game. Obviously, there's 2 goals that are arguably his fault, but he made some pretty crucial saves. But again, Maxime Crépeau here made some pretty big saves and important saves. And I think with that, I think that solidifies him as Canada's #1 for the future. And yeah. It's a great day to be Canadian. It's a great day to be a Canadian footballing fan, and hopefully we can take this and build from it, and that this is not just a one blip. Certainly, I would say one of Canada's biggest historic results. It's only the second ever time in their history that they play France. The first time being in the 1986 World Cup, where even then they put a pretty decent result, losing 1-0 thanks to a fairly late on 𝙎𝙊𝘾𝘼𝙎𝙏 Papin-Goal. And there's another one to tally up. I guess we the Canadians, we just love playing against our against our founders, the French. And with that, I think I've done everything I need. I think I've said and done everything I need to say for the Canadian aspect. And now on to the French. All right, there we go. Quick change of outfit. All right, looking at the game from the French perspective, it's a bit bizarre in the sense that France historically, especially in recent times, haven't really been all that impressive coming into tournaments. But then when the games were really important, they sort of turned it on. And obviously, like you say, well, form is important going into tournaments. Obviously, you don't want to go into tournaments, in a downswing of form. But in the 2018 World Cup, I remember France, I think they beat Italy away in Nice, and then they drew against the United States in a 1-1 game, which was pretty tight. And so again, like these are important games. I think the most important thing, I went and I saw Didier Deschamps afterwards. It wasn't like he's like, oh, we should be winning this game. I think for him, the most important thing is that, number one, nobody's injured. All right. He was able to rotate the entire squad, see everybody play. I think he already has an idea of his main starting 11 for the competition. And that today was just sort of seeing who can maybe come off the bench, what if one player gets injured, so on and so forth, to rotate around. And more broadly, I guess from the French perspective, it's because, as I was saying before, for Canada, getting a draw away from home against the second-ranked team is a huge, huge accomplishment. But also for France, it's not like, and France getting a draw is almost like a loss, but it's also like not, because obviously you didn't lose, and it's not like they were deserving of losing anything. It's not like the draw wasn't unmerited. If anything, like you'd say that France probably should have put 1 or 2 in, and they didn't play well, but they also didn't play poorly. They had more chances, and yeah, I think from this you go and you say obviously that you're what you hope from France is that you just go and you say that this is just a friendly, that it's just that there's nothing more you can take from it. I think I'm not too worried, and I'm not too worried. Also, it's sort of how would I put it? Solidifies what I thought before France going in, which I'll be going on and making a more in-depth, Euro prediction video. But I think that France are a bit coming into this tournament, I feel, at least from what I hear and outside, so on and so forth, a bit overrated coming into the tournament. Of course, we've got the great squad, so on and so forth. But again, this is a Euro. Anything can happen. Downturns of forms, fluke games, couple moments of genius there, and you're out or you're through. But I think over for France, I think it's not a major cause for concern. Maybe raises some interesting thought points for Didier Deschamps and saying, okay, this is something I'll do again. This is something I won't do. From the French perspective, obviously you're putting out, I would say, what is probably as close as to a pretty close rendition to their starting 11 that I think is going to feature against Austria with, as I said, Mike Maignan in goal. Your back four of Theo Hernandez, Saliba, Upamecano, and Koundé from the right, and the midfield of Kanté, Camavinga, and Griezmann. And up front today, you had Thuram, Giroud, and Dembele. I think from that, and one of the big shocks, I must say, Kanté, and from what I'm seeing, even hearing from a lot of other French supporters, is that Kanté, titulaire indiscutable. Basically, like, first name on the starting sheet, along with Mbappe, obviously. But first name was, I think, like, I was shocked. I was saying on stream that I was truly perplexed and amazed by the quality that he had. Like it's like he never left. It's like he's never left the national team, right? And obviously at 32 years old, obviously playing in Saudi Arabia, I don't see him play often. I'm not gonna put him that I watch his games, but he was there. Good old Conte as usual, winning balls, being dynamic, running the length of the entire earth, several times round. I think he needs to be there. Apart from that, Camavinga in the midfield, I think was less involved. Is not quite able to replicate his form for Real Madrid as he is for the national team. Sort of almost like a Foden with England. But I don't think even in, like, if everybody's fit and everybody's good, I don't think he's starting anyways. I think he's a player that you bring off the bench and can bring a whole lot from there. And I also don't think that he's being utilized in the best position. I think his best position is almost playing as an out and out 6 really right in front of the defense. Whereas today they're sort of playing a double pivot. And because Conte's sort of a free roamer, I think there was that. But again, it's also one game. He was asked about it. He's like, yeah, obviously it wasn't his best game, but it's also not some cataclysm. It was not a disaster. So it's not, I don't think it's cause for alarm. And then Griezmann is actually the other thing. I'd say that I think he's playing too high this time around. The great thing about the World Cup in Russia in Qatar in 2022 is that he was almost playing as like an 8 or like an 8, sort of 8.5, not quite a 10, but not an 8 either, sort of in there. And it would help out a lot defensively, but I feel like today he's a lot more like an out and out 10, and not, sometimes even finding himself as the second 9, which maybe it could work. Maybe that's what's going to happen, but I think I'd like him better, a bit deeper, and the things that he does defensively will bring out more. As for other things, I thought Saliba today was impeccable. I think with that, I think he's done enough then to cast any doubts that Didier Deschamps had, who has said previously in the past that he didn't feel that, Saliba he was sort of missing that little spark, that little nudge to really solidify him on the French team. And I think with this performance today, I think it was impeccable. Clearances, just had this, starting to find the word in English, it's this serenité, this sort of certitude about him. This, like, he's almost like Virgil van Dijk-esque. Obviously not to compare him to someone, but like that calmness, easygoing, assuredness that he brings in defense, I think is going to do France a whole lot of good. And also the fact that Konate and Upamecano haven't been coming off the greatest of seasons, especially towards the tail end of the season with their club, I think does enough. And obviously Saliba being the best center back in the Premier League, I think does enough to get him a name on the starting 11. And the other, I guess, one downside is Thuram. I guess he does hit the bar and creates a good shot, but I just feel like I think he's a good option from the bench, but I don't think he's enough to I don't think he's enough to, he's done enough in the 2 games and previous internationals to warrant himself a place in the starting 11. I think most likely the strongest French 11 is going to be same keeper, same back line. I probably still put Jules Koundé over Pavard, just because of what he can bring going offensively. Although really realistically speaking here, I don't think there's much of a difference. They both are sort of center backs, sort of being converted to right backs. And in the midfield, I think I'd do, depending on who's fit, I'd do Kanté, Tchouaméni, and Griezmann, and have sort of Kanté be sort of more of a free roamer, sort of go and go where he needs to go, and sort of have Tchouaméni really be right in front, sort of how he played against in the 2022 World Cup, and then have Griezmann slightly higher, but still coming back and doing his defensive due diligence. Then up front, obviously, Kylian Mbappé on the left, and Giroud as striker. Even though today he didn't have the best of games, playing his last ever game in France in a under French colors, and then from the right, Dembouz. Even though obviously he wasn't decisive in anything, but I think still there's his capacity to eliminate somebody off the dribble is something that obviously you do have off the bench as well, but it's just second to none. And I think he's going to cause, especially with Giroud in front, putting in good crosses, I think it could be a potentially lethal partnership. So I think that's going to be most likely the way France goes and lines itself up. So in the midfield, I think Tchouaméni is going to be in there. Hopefully he can come back into fitness. Was a bit shocked that he perhaps didn't come in at all. Rabiot as well. We'll see. There's rumors about maybe they won't feature in the first game, but then I'm like, I feel like if they don't feature in the first game, do you then start to bring them on afterwards, especially in the second game against the Netherlands, where we'll see. Overall, I would say from the French perspective, no cause for alarm. You didn't play well, but you didn't play poorly either. You didn't concede. You haven't conceded in your last 2 games. Michael Mignon didn't have anything really to do there. One thing you could say is that creating more chances going forward. But again, from what I've seen from France, when they're sort of like, if I may, the Real Madrid of international football, is that in non sequitur games, they don't turn up. But when things really matter, they're there. They show their cojones. But yeah, that's that. I will hopefully be coming out with a Euro prediction video, predicting the groups, everything, predicting the overall winners. And if you guys want me to do so, I'll also do the same thing with the Copa America. And with that, Thank you very much. Remember, stay safe, stay kind, stay blessed. Godspeed.